Owen Farrell has been called up to the 2025 Lions Tour in Australia. This was always going to be one of the most talked about decisions of this tour, if it happened, and it has. So guess what? I'm going to talk about it in this video. Hello amateurs, welcome back to the channel, and I'm going to be here with you throughout the Lions series and beyond, so hit subscribe to follow along. Now, first and foremost, huge condolences to Elliot Daly, out of the tour, confirmed fractured forearm. This is the man that has been written off in many quarters, but has, on this tour in particular, has shown his form. He's played really well pretty much for every minute of every time that he's been on the pitch. He's been involved in the last 11 Lions matchday squads. That is absolutely wild, absolutely incredible. He's been a class act, and along with Thomas Williams before him, one of the most popular members of this squad. So it's incredibly sad for him to be missing out on the rest of this tour. But just in terms of his class, you know, him and Owen Farrell are really good mates, like best mates probably. And according to Andy Farrell, Elliot Daly was actually sort of really delighted for Owen. He was like, it kind of made him happy that although his place had gone, it had gone to his best mate to come on his fourth tour. So hope you're doing all right, Elliot, and thanks for all your efforts on this tour. It's been quite remarkable. Now then, I mentioned it then, fourth tour. This is Owen Farrell's fourth Lions tour, and that takes him into really, really rarefied company. Alan Wynne-Jones, Brian O'Driscoll with 4 tours apiece. And then with 5, we've got Mike Gibson and Willie John McBride. He's one of only 5 people now to have made it on 4 or more Lions tours. Huge congratulations in that respect. Okay, but let's talk about it, because this has certainly got a mixed reaction online since it was announced earlier today. And I've got to say, my initial reaction was mixed. I was a little bit quizzical. I was a little bit, what's the thinking behind this? Because there's lots of ways you could describe how it doesn't make sense. And we'll go through some of those in this video. But then, as always in these situations, I'm very aware that we don't have all the information. I don't have all the information. Those guys on the inside of the camp, they know what's going on. They know the players. They know the situation in terms of fitness and in terms of mindset that all the individual players are going through. So, you know, I took a step back and just tried to figure out, okay, so what has gone into this decision? Because it's clearly something that was on the cards pre-tour, and it's clearly, as Andy Farrell talks about all the time, you know, they're monitoring a lot of players a lot of the times in case people need to be brought in. So let's look at what's required in this instance. And first off, positionally. So you've got Elliot Daly leaving the tour. Fullback, wing, 13, really versatile, can cover a lot of positions in the outside backs. But is that what's required going forward? Because, of course, up until this point, you didn't have Hugo Keenan, you didn't have Blair Kinghorn, but they're now both fit and available and are both starting actually against the Waratahs on Saturday. So Kinghorn on the wing. So there we go. That's covering wing and fullback. And if you look throughout the rest of the squad, there's plenty of cover. Andy Farrell said it himself. We've got lots of fullbacks. So it's not like they needed to replace like for like in terms of position. I strongly don't think that. And therefore, they're probably the bigger factor was some of the other factors that I'm going to talk about now. One of which will be timing. So they're already 3 games in to this tour. It will be 4 by the time Owen Farrell arrives, which means only 6 remaining. And I think that's been quite a big factor. I think they're looking at the ability of a player to come into a squad and to learn a system and be able to provide value as soon as possible. I think experience is a big, big factor in that respect, of course. I mean, everybody knows Owen Farrell's an absolute rugby nose. There is absolutely no question that he has almost certainly been watching the videos and knows the systems already. He's probably analysed it all from maybe from an opposition perspective, looking at the Lions, and has already dissected everything that's going on. I have no doubt that he can come in, and if he's fit and on form, then he'll play a very big part in the remaining games of this tour. Okay, I mentioned it there, form and fitness. he doesn't have much, does he? But Andy Farrell said, they've been monitoring him, and he's not the only one, along with everybody else as well. So they know what condition he's in. These athletes are so well monitored nowadays that they know exactly where they are at all times. And if the numbers are good, then in terms of fitness, I don't think there'll be any issue for Owen Farrell whatsoever. And then again, form. And again, he's not the only one. They've taken gambles, you could call it, on a number of players on this trip who haven't played a lot of rugby. Sione Tuipulotu and Hugo Keenan are two that come straight to mind, but there's others as well. And again, it's about knowing the individuals. It's about seeing what they've done in the past. It's about seeing how quickly they've come back to form and what type of psychology they are. Can they get back into a tour or playing rugby towards the top of their form within a game or two? Is that something they've done in the past? And I think it is with Farrell. I think we've seen it when he's been injured. He hasn't been injured a lot throughout his career, but he tends to come straight back in and get right back to his level pretty quickly. So I think that's certainly been a factor. And like I said, I'm repeating myself here, but these coaches know the players inside out. They know them. They know the numbers. They know the psychology. They know where they're at, and they've been talking to them. So I think all of those things are factors. Now, it must be said, there are other players here who I'm sure will be extremely disappointed. There are a number of guys, and I'm not going to name them here, who would have been very close, who've shown a lot of form and fitness over recent weeks and months, and would have probably felt they deserved that spot. But ultimately, they're picking a player to come in and do a job immediately. And based on some of the other factors that I've mentioned before, I think that's what they've gone for here. Are there players who are more like-for-like replacement? Yeah, there definitely are. But again, I don't think that's a huge factor in this decision. Another thing that they could have done was like bringing in a new line. So in terms of potentially it's too late to really push for a test spot unless their injuries happen. So would bringing in a new line full of enthusiasm and joy, all of that kind of stuff, kind of the Henry Pollock energy, shall we say, would that have been a better option? And I'm sure they would have thought about that. But for one thing for sure, there's going to be nobody more committed or more enthused than Owen Farrell coming into this squad. He will be on it, absolutely on it. What about concerns? I do have some concerns. My biggest concern, I don't think this will be realised, but bear with me. My biggest concern is that he doesn't get back to form, but is played in the test series anyway. And I mentioned this in the Scrum video I did the other day, and I'll link it up there. This is what happened, I believe, to Phil Vickery in 2009, and it went very, very badly. So that's my only concern, but I don't think that'll happen unless there's a raft of injuries and he has to sort of get in before he's ready. But if he doesn't get back to form and fitness, in terms of match fitness, that is, then I still believe that he can have a really positive impact on this squad. So I think, although I have that concern, I think it's mitigated quite a lot by the impact that he can have on the squad anyway. Now, of course, this has drawn much comment on social media this morning, and I've got to say there's been some rubbish spoken. I think accusations of nepotism are frankly disgraceful as far as I'm concerned. These guys, these coaches, these guys are selecting this team, with Andy Farrell obviously being at the top of that. They're professional coaches. They've spent their entire life getting to this, which is the pinnacle of their career. And ultimately, they want to win. They're going to make the decision that is based solely on what gives them the best chance to win. They're all ridiculous competitors. I mean, you and me, we probably think we're quite competitive as well. These guys are way on a different level to that, and they want to win. I have got no doubt at all that they've gone through all the options. They're fully versed in everything that's going on, and they've made the decision that they believe gives the Lions the best chance to win this test series. And what Owen Farrell can bring to the squad, non-playing and playing, I think gives them it. That's what they've gone for. Okay, what about the fairy tale story? What about the poetic ending that might happen from this? I mean, I can't see him being involved in the first test. But if there's a few injuries, if the Wallabies manage to nick the first test or win it comfortably potentially, what a story it would be for Farrell to come back in, even if just off the bench, and do something to turn or win this series. It's a mammoth story, whatever happens, and anything that raises the profile of the game for me is a good thing. Like I said, my initial reaction was I'm not quite sure, but I think I've figured out at least some of the reasons why it's happened. Let me know in the comments down below. Keep it friendly, keep it respectful, and we'll have a good old chinwag about it there. I'd love to know. I mean, there's lots of people that this shirt, this position could have gone to. Let me know who you think it could have gone to in the comments down below as well. And again, friendly, respectful, and I will join you there for a conversation. Give this video a thumbs up while you're down there. If you don't mind, it helps other people find it, and you can subscribe there. You can watch that one next, and don't forget to get out and play.